LeBron has two major decisions to make, and both are going to shake the NBA to its core. The first will be, does he want out of LA to join Anthony Davis in Dallas or to team up with Steph Curry on the Warriors? The Lakers want to get out of the LeBron James business. They want to pivot. He doesn't like not to be celebrated to LA. So it is very possible that LeBron is right now in that same mindset. Play out the final year with the Lakers and then be out to wherever he wants.
LeBron James has been the face of the NBA for nearly 2 decades, but there is growing speculation that we may be entering the final chapter of his time with the Los Angeles Lakers. Whispers, cryptic social media posts, and behind-the-scenes conversations have fueled one of the biggest questions in basketball right now. Is LeBron quietly planning his exit from LA? In this video, we are going to break down everything from subtle hints to bold rumors, and each piece of evidence will be dissected in detail. We will analyze potential destinations, the meaning behind his public statements, and whether the Lakers themselves might actually be preparing for a future without him. This is not just about basketball. It is about legacy, pride, and the delicate balance between player power and franchise loyalty. You are going to want to stick around for every section because each one adds a critical layer to the mystery. Make sure to subscribe to NBA Showdown, like this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think LeBron will finish his career in purple and gold, or will he shock the NBA world one last time? The first clue comes from this summer, where LeBron James and Anthony Davis posted the exact same Instagram story at the exact same time, a rare coordinated move that immediately set off speculation. The post was a quote about becoming the best version of yourself, paired with the phrase that doing so comes with a lot of goodbyes. For many fans and analysts, this was more than a simple motivational message. In the high-stakes world of professional sports, athletes often use social media as a controlled way of sending messages they cannot say directly. The timing and identical nature of the posts suggest that both LeBron and Davis wanted to convey a shared mindset and perhaps a shared plan. The mention of goodbyes implies change, and change at this level often means roster shakeups, trades, or even complete exits. When a superstar like LeBron drops something like this, it does not happen by accident. In his career, he has been deliberate with public communication, using it to test reactions, rally allies, or hint at big moves. Pairing with Davis for this post could mean they are united in preparing for a major transition, whether that is a joint move to another team or simply a symbolic acknowledgement that their time as Lakers teammates may be ending. This is the kind of subtle but powerful clue that seasoned NBA observers pick apart, because while teams and players deny rumors publicly, messages like this often foreshadow reality. In a league where perception can drive action, a simple story post can be the first domino in a massive shift.
This summer, LeBron's behavior can only be seen as strange. And now, we have a potential bombshell. LeBron and Anthony Davis posted the same Instagram story at the same time. Becoming the best version of yourself comes with a lot of goodbyes.
The second major point of intrigue revolves around 2 potential decisions LeBron reportedly faces, either of which could dramatically alter the NBA landscape. According to reports, he could decide to leave Los Angeles to join Anthony Davis in Dallas, or instead choose to team up with Stephen Curry on the Golden State Warriors. Each scenario has enormous implications. If LeBron were to go to Dallas, he would be joining forces with Luka Doncic, one of the brightest young stars in the league, creating a pairing that could dominate for the next few seasons. Such a move would also reunite him with Davis, maintaining their championship chemistry in a fresh environment that might better suit his late career ambitions. On the other hand, teaming up with Curry would be a seismic event for the league. LeBron and Curry have defined much of the last decade in basketball, often as rivals on the biggest stage. Coming together would be a spectacle unlike anything the NBA has seen in years, instantly making the Warriors title favorites and rewriting the narrative of both players' careers. The fact that these are the 2 rumored options is telling. Neither involve staying in Los Angeles. Both point to LeBron seeking the most competitive environment possible while also securing another shot at a championship before retirement. This is not about money, as he has already secured generational wealth. This is about legacy, winning, and controlling his own ending in the league.
LeBron has 2 major decisions to make, and both are going to shake the NBA to its core. The first will be, does he want out of LA to join Anthony Davis in Dallas or to team up with Steph Curry on the Warriors?
Adding another layer of intrigue is the idea that LeBron might be making moves behind the scenes to build a new super team, one designed specifically to maximize his chances at winning one more championship ring. This would not be surprising given his history. Throughout his career, LeBron has shown a willingness to make bold moves and align himself with top-tier talent to achieve his goals. From his decision to join the Miami Heat with Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh, to returning to Cleveland with the promise of building a contender, to coming to the Lakers with the expectation of creating a championship roster, LeBron has consistently demonstrated that he thinks strategically about where he plays and with whom. Building a super team at this stage would be both a competitive decision and a statement about his enduring influence in the league. If he is working quietly to assemble such a roster, it would explain his recent silence about certain team issues and his cryptic public messaging. The goal here would be to go out on top, cementing his legacy as not only one of the greatest players of all time, but also one of the smartest in navigating the business and politics of the NBA. The super team strategy is not just about talent. It is about finding the right personalities and playing styles that can come together under playoff pressure. If LeBron is indeed orchestrating such a move, it would be a masterclass in career management.
So today, we are exposing if LeBron is making moves behind the scenes to form a super team, one that's going to give him the best chance.
Mike Korzemba brings up something that should have been a monumental, history-defining moment. LeBron James breaking the all-time scoring record, and yet, strangely, it did not dominate the sports world for long. Normally, this kind of achievement would generate a non-stop media cycle, endless praise, celebratory retrospectives, and emotional features about LeBron's journey to the top of the scoring list. It should have been the type of milestone that cements a legacy in public consciousness for decades. However, as Mike points out, the hype was shockingly muted. There was no extended celebration, no ongoing reverence in the way Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's original record-breaking moment was remembered, and no sense of league-wide awe that lingered. The question is, why? One possible reason is that the NBA landscape has changed. The media cycle moves faster, the audience is bombarded with constant stories, and even monumental events get buried under the next trending topic. But that alone cannot explain the lack of ongoing recognition. The deeper, more uncomfortable truth is that the context surrounding LeBron at that moment was not ideal. Breaking the record happened in the middle of a Lakers season where the team was struggling, and the excitement of the achievement was undercut by the reality that the Lakers were far from championship contention. Instead of the record being framed as the crowning glory of a still dominant player, it came across as a bittersweet moment, a personal victory that did not translate into team success. Another factor is public perception. LeBron has long been one of the most polarizing athletes in history. Every achievement of his is met with applause from supporters and immediate counterpoints from detractors. Breaking the scoring record was no exception. Critics were quick to downplay it by pointing out differences in eras, higher scoring modern play styles, and LeBron's longevity padding his totals. Instead of universal celebration, the milestone became just another flashpoint in the endless GOAT debate. That kind of divided reaction diminishes the unified hype that would normally surround such an achievement. For LeBron himself, the lack of fanfare may have stung more than he lets on. This is a player who thrives on recognition, who understands the power of narrative in shaping legacy, and who likely expected this milestone to be a moment of overwhelming adulation. Instead, it faded quickly into the background of NBA discourse, replaced by conversations about trades, playoff races, and coaching changes. That could be a subtle yet significant emotional trigger, especially for someone who is already rumored to be contemplating his future in Los Angeles.
LeBron broke the all-time scoring record, but there was almost no hype at all around that.
Right after pointing out the underwhelming hype around the scoring record, Mike Korzemba shifts focus to what people are talking about: the fact that LeBron James has not made the NBA Finals in the past 5 seasons since the 2020 Bubble Championship. This is where perception begins to weigh heavily on legacy. For most players, winning a title in the past few years would be enough to shield them from heavy criticism. But LeBron is not most players. He operates under a microscope where every season that does not end in a finals appearance is seen as a failure by a large segment of the public. The Bubble Championship in 2020 was an incredible accomplishment given the unique circumstances, but for critics, it has become increasingly distant in memory. Each season since then has been judged in isolation, and the fact that LeBron has not even reached the finals since that run feeds into a narrative that his dominance is fading. This is particularly damaging in the GOAT conversation because one of the defining aspects of his prime was his near-automatic finals appearances. 8 straight from 2011 to 2018. That level of sustained excellence built his reputation as a player who could almost single-handedly drag teams to the league's biggest stage. Now, the absence of those appearances makes it easy for critics to say his era is over. For fans and analysts alike, finals appearances are not just about winning titles. They are about proving that a player can still lead at the highest level. Even when LeBron lost in the finals, he often did so against historically great teams, which maintained his aura of greatness. But missing the finals entirely removes him from the biggest conversations of the postseason. That absence creates space for other stars to take the spotlight, further reducing LeBron's cultural dominance in the sport. From LeBron's perspective, this shift in narrative could be deeply frustrating. He knows the context: injuries, roster instability, and front office decisions that have not always been optimal. But public perception rarely cares about context. Fans and media thrive on results, and the result here is 5 years without the grandest stage. If LeBron is indeed weighing his options, this could be a major factor pushing him toward a team that gives him a realistic shot at returning to the finals before his career ends.
What people focus on is the fact that LeBron has not made the finals in the last 5 seasons, seasons since the 2020 bubble championship.
Mike Korzemba continues the critique by highlighting that in addition to missing the finals, the Lakers have lost in the first round of the playoffs for the last 2 seasons. For a player of LeBron's stature, first-round exits are not just disappointing, they are borderline humiliating. This is someone who once made deep playoff runs seem inevitable, who rarely faced elimination before at least the conference finals in his prime. First-round losses are a visible sign that the Lakers, as currently constructed, are no longer capable of supporting him in a legitimate championship push. These early exits have a double impact on LeBron's image. First, they tarnish his reputation as a playoff powerhouse. Second, they add to the perception that the Lakers are wasting his final years. In the unforgiving world of NBA narratives, nobody cares about the mitigating factors, whether it was injuries, poor roster fits, or tough matchups. What sticks in the public's memory is that the Lakers went home early, and LeBron was part of that. The visual of him walking off the court in the first round is far different from the image of him hoisting trophies or battling in Game 7s. The danger for LeBron is that if this pattern continues, the last chapters of his career might be remembered more for early playoff exits than for his earlier dominance. That is not the way he wants to go out. And for someone as legacy-conscious as LeBron, that could be unacceptable. First-round losses are not just a blow to pride. They are a signal that something needs to change. For fans, especially those who remember his near-decade of finals trips, this decline in postseason relevance is hard to watch. It feels like watching a once unstoppable force being constrained by circumstances beyond his control, and sometimes by his own aging body. But for LeBron himself, it might feel like the writing on the wall. Staying in Los Angeles might mean more of the same. Another year of high individual stats, but team results that fall short. If the goal is to end his career competing for championships, first-round losses will not cut it. That could be yet another reason why the whispers about him leaving the Lakers refuse to die down.
So focused on the fact that the Lakers have lost in the first round of the playoffs the last 2 seasons.
Mike Korzemba raises a point that strikes at the core of how LeBron James is perceived. He is being held to a ridiculously high standard, and that is exactly what happens when a player enters the legitimate greatest of all-time conversation. The expectations on LeBron are unlike those placed on almost any other athlete in basketball history. For most players, simply maintaining all-star level production in the latter stages of their career would be a triumph. For LeBron, anything short of competing for championships and winning them is seen as falling short. That is the price of being compared not just to his peers, but to basketball legends like Michael Jordan and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The idea of a ridiculously high standard is key here. Every missed shot, every lost series, every injury, and every underwhelming season is amplified because of the position LeBron has put himself in through decades of excellence. He has set the bar so high that there is little room for public grace when he falls below it. When he was in his prime, this level of scrutiny might have served as motivation. But now, as his career inevitably approaches its final chapters, meeting such extreme expectations becomes harder, and the criticism harsher. This is also a double-edged sword. On one hand, this standard is a compliment to LeBron's greatness. It acknowledges that he is in the rarefied air of all-time legends. On the other hand, it can become a burden that makes even impressive accomplishments feel underappreciated. A season where he averages 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists is still met with questions about why his team did not go deeper in the playoffs. For another player, those numbers would be career-defining. For LeBron, they are expected, and anything less is unacceptable in the eyes of the basketball world. When you are in the GOAT conversation, every action is magnified. Every outcome is a referendum on your legacy. That means the last few years of LeBron's career will not just be about his stats or his personal milestones. They will be about whether he can still meet or even exceed the monumental expectations that have followed him for nearly 2 decades. This constant comparison to the highest possible standard may well be influencing how he views his time in Los Angeles, and whether he believes the Lakers can provide him with the platform to meet those expectations before the clock runs out.
Is Bron being held to a ridiculously high standard? Yes. But that is what happens when you enter legitimate GOAT talk.
Mike's statement that the final seasons of LeBron's career will be imprinted in your brains forever carries enormous weight. It is a reminder that in sports, the way a legendary player finishes often shapes how they are remembered as much as, if not more than, their peak years. This is not just about nostalgia. It is about narrative. Fans and media will replay these closing years over and over in documentaries, highlight reels, and debates for decades to come. The last impression LeBron leaves on the court will be a permanent part of his legacy. If those years are defined by early playoff exits, tension with his team's front office, or a visible decline in performance, those images will sit alongside his championships and iconic moments. Conversely, if he can engineer one last deep playoff run, or even another championship, it would serve as a triumphant epilogue to a storied career. In other words, these final chapters are not just filler, they are critical to the story. What makes this point even more significant is the fact that LeBron is fully aware of it. Few athletes are as conscious of their legacy as he is. Every move, every public statement, and every on-court action is made with an understanding of how it will be remembered. That awareness could very well be a factor in any decision he makes about leaving the Lakers. If he believes his final seasons in Los Angeles will be remembered as wasted years, he might see moving to another team as not just a career decision, but a legacy-saving maneuver. Fans, too, understand this dynamic. That is why the idea of LeBron finishing his career anywhere other than in championship contention feels unsettling. Nobody wants to see a player of his stature fade quietly on a team that cannot match his ambitions. And because these seasons will be imprinted forever, they carry more emotional weight for the audience. They are not just games. They are the final brushstrokes on a masterpiece. If the Lakers cannot help him paint those final strokes in gold, he may feel compelled to find another canvas.
That the final seasons of LeBron's career will be imprinted in all of our brains.
Mike then drops a particularly explosive report. The Lakers may want out of the LeBron James business, signaling that they are looking to pivot away from building their team around him. For any superstar, that would be a blow. For someone like LeBron, who has spent his entire career as the centerpiece of every franchise he has played for, it is a seismic shift. The notion that the Lakers are considering life beyond him speaks to the realities of team building and the cold business side of basketball. The relationship between LeBron and the Lakers has always been one of mutual benefit. He brought them a championship in 2020, and in return, they gave him a platform in one of the league's most glamorous markets. But as time passes and LeBron ages, the Lakers front office may be thinking more about long-term planning than maximizing the last few years of his career. From their perspective, shifting focus could mean building around younger players, preserving future draft assets, and avoiding the financial strain that often comes with catering to a superstar's demands. For LeBron, however, being told directly or indirectly that he is no longer the priority cuts deep. This is a player who thrives on being celebrated, who expects not just respect but reverence for his contributions and stature in the game. The suggestion that the Lakers might want to move on could feel like a betrayal, especially after he delivered them a title. It also plays into the narrative that his time in Los Angeles is winding down, not because he has chosen it to be, but because the organization is ready to move forward without him. That lack of celebration, as Mike mentions, is a crucial element. LeBron has always been as much about the story as the statistics, and being unappreciated or even just feeling unappreciated can push him toward making dramatic changes. If the Lakers' pivot becomes more than just a rumor, it could accelerate any plans he has to join another team, one that will not just value his skills, but will also celebrate his presence.
The Lakers want to get out of the LeBron James business. They want to pivot. He doesn't like not to be celebrated.
Mike Korzemba's statement that LeBron is recognizing he is no longer the priority of the Lakers is a major turning point in this unfolding story. For most of his career, LeBron has been the unquestioned centerpiece of every franchise he has joined. In Cleveland, Miami, and even early in his Los Angeles stint, the teams revolved entirely around him. Every roster move, coaching adjustment, and media narrative was shaped with his needs at the forefront. Now, that dynamic appears to be shifting. This recognition on LeBron's part is not just about noticing smaller signs of change. It is about fully understanding that the Lakers front office is beginning to prioritize their own long-term strategy over catering exclusively to him. What makes this particularly tense is that LeBron is not used to being in this position. For nearly 2 decades, he has commanded the type of respect and influence that allows him to shape an organization's decisions, often even acting as an unofficial general manager. When the franchise's focus shifts away from him, it is not only a strategic change, it is a symbolic one. It signals that his era as the face of the team is nearing its end, and that is a tough pill to swallow for any athlete of his stature. This kind of realization can create friction, even if nothing overtly hostile is happening between the two sides. We can imagine how this tension might be manifesting, perhaps in subtle ways, like the Lakers investing more developmental minutes in younger players during critical stretches, or choosing roster moves that do not necessarily align with LeBron's preferred win-now approach. Maybe it's the way the media coverage has shifted from LeBron's every move to discussions about the team's future post-LeBron. For a player whose career has been built on constant spotlight and control, these subtle signs can feel magnified. The psychology here is important. When you have spent your entire professional life as the top priority, realizing you are not anymore can feel like the walls closing in. Even if LeBron remains productive, the perception of being second in organizational focus can diminish his sense of belonging. It is not simply about minutes on the court or number of plays run for him. It is about whether the team's identity is still tied to his own. If the Lakers' identity is starting to lean toward preparing for the post-LeBron era, he might feel more like a transitional figure than the central one. Tension in such situations rarely stays hidden forever. If LeBron feels undervalued, it can affect his energy in practices, his openness in press conferences, and even his willingness to mentor younger players in the organization. The media, always quick to spot storylines like this, would amplify the situation, which could accelerate a breakdown in the relationship between player and franchise. For the Lakers, this is a delicate balance. They need to secure their long-term goals while still honoring what LeBron brings to the table. But from the way Mike puts it, that balance might already be tipping in a way LeBron does not appreciate.
He's not their priority anymore, and that's created some tension.
Mike's observation that LeBron has shown throughout his career that if things do not go his way, he will pull a Jimmy Butler and lose the joy in his basketball game is an extremely telling insight. This is not a criticism so much as an acknowledgement of LeBron's competitive nature. When things align with his vision, LeBron is engaged. engaged, energized, and capable of elevating not just his own performance, but also the play of everyone around him. However, when the situation becomes misaligned with his goals, whether that's due to coaching strategies, roster construction, or organizational priorities, the joy can drain from his game, and that shift is visible to everyone watching. The Jimmy Butler comparison is an interesting one. Butler is known for wearing his emotions on his sleeve, letting frustration with teammates or management affect his demeanor on the court. While LeBron is typically more measured, the underlying similarity lies in how competitive drive can turn into dissatisfaction when the environment feels unsupportive. This does not mean that LeBron stops playing hard, but rather that his performance may lose that extra gear of enthusiasm that has so often made the difference in big games. We have seen glimpses of this in his career before. Think back to his final season in Cleveland the first time around, or the stretches in Miami when internal tensions boiled up, or even in the 2018 Cavs season when roster instability wore on him visibly. In each case, the common thread was that when the organizational direction conflicted with his vision, the joy faded, and with it sometimes the results. For a player who thrives on narrative momentum, emotional engagement is as critical as physical preparation. If the current Lakers situation is indeed creating tension, as suggested in the previous section, the risk is that we might see this joyless version of LeBron. When that happens, his body language can become more subdued, his interaction with teammates less animated, and his willingness to fully buy into the system diminished. That may not be intentional sabotage, it is more an emotional reaction to feeling unsupported or undervalued. And just as joy can be contagious, so can frustration. If LeBron is visibly unhappy, it inevitably trickles down to the rest of the locker room, impacting chemistry and performance. For the Lakers, this is a dangerous potential outcome. The version of LeBron who is fully engaged, even at this stage in his career, is still one of the most impactful players in the league. The version who feels disconnected from the organizational mission is far less potent. The question then becomes whether this recognition of no longer being the priority could lead to exactly the scenario Mike is describing here, where LeBron's game, while still productive, lacks the fire that has defined his career.
LeBron, throughout his entire NBA career, has shown that if things do not go his way, he will pull a Jimmy Butler. There will be no joy in his basketball game.
Mike's statement that it is very possible LeBron might only play one more game with the Lakers before leaving is the most direct and dramatic prediction of them all. This shifts the conversation from speculation about tension and dissatisfaction to the possibility of immediate decisive action. The suggestion that LeBron could be on the verge of playing his final game in a Lakers uniform sends shockwaves not only through Los Angeles, but the entire NBA. If this were to happen, it would represent one of the most abrupt superstar departures in recent memory. Unlike a carefully planned farewell season or a publicly announced trade request, this scenario implies a swift and possibly behind-the-scenes decision to part ways. LeBron has never been afraid to make bold moves in pursuit of his goals, and if he feels the Lakers are no longer aligned with his vision, whether in terms of roster support, organizational respect, or championship potential, he could very well decide that the time to move on is now. From a strategic standpoint, LeBron holds significant leverage. As a player of his stature, he could potentially dictate his next destination, seeking out a team with both the talent and the willingness to put him at the center of their championship plans. Such a move would not just alter his own career trajectory, but would also dramatically reshape the competitive balance of the league. Teams in immediate contention mode would likely scramble to see if they could make the necessary moves to acquire him, while the Lakers would face the daunting task of rebranding themselves without the sport's biggest name. The emotional component of such a departure would be just as impactful. For Lakers fans, the idea of LeBron leaving so suddenly after delivering a championship in 2020 would be bittersweet. While they could appreciate what he brought to the franchise, the abruptness of the exit could leave a lingering sense of unfinished business. For LeBron, leaving midstream would be a bold statement, one that says he values the remaining years of his career too much to waste them in a situation he no longer believes in. If Mike's prediction comes true, it would not only confirm the underlying tensions discussed in earlier sections, but also prove that LeBron is willing to take decisive action when the writing is on the wall. Whether that means joining another superstar elsewhere, creating a new super team, or making one last run in a different jersey, such a move would instantly become one of the defining moments of his career.
To LA. So it is very possible that LeBron is right now in that same mindset. Play out the final year with the Lakers and then be out to wherever he wants.
The unfolding story surrounding LeBron James and the Lakers is not just about basketball. It is about legacy, respect, and control over the final chapters of one of the greatest careers in sports history. From subtle signs of shifting priorities to the emotional toll of feeling undervalued, every development adds another layer to the question of whether LeBron's time in Los Angeles is nearing its end. The recognition that he is no longer the franchise's top priority, the possibility of losing joy in the game when things go off track, and the looming potential of a sudden departure all point toward a crossroads moment. If LeBron does decide to leave, the decision will not be made lightly. It will be rooted in the same competitive drive and self-awareness that have defined his career. The Lakers, meanwhile, will face the challenge of balancing their long-term vision with the immediate reality of having one of the greatest players of all time still on their roster. Whatever happens next, one thing is certain: the basketball basketball world will be watching closely because the end of LeBron's Lakers chapter, whether it comes in a year or after just one more game, will be remembered and debated for decades.